Next up, we've got text-specific tools. And looking at the Transform tab in the Query Editor, you'll notice that Power BI groups different sets of tools together based on their purpose or function. So in this case, we'll find all of our text-specific tools grouped together at the end of the ribbon, and within this group, we've got some really interesting and powerful options. So for one, we can split up a column based on a specific character or delimiter or based on a number of characters. We can format any of our text columns using basic formatting options like lowercase, uppercase, proper case, which is capitalizing the first letter of each word, or we can use tools like trim, which eliminate leading and trailing spaces, or clean, which does the same thing and also eliminates non-principal characters. Now, you might be thinking that those trim and clean options really aren't that helpful, but once you run into a case where you have one trailing space in your dataset, and trust me, this will drive you crazy the first time you experience it. The problem is, as human beings, we're incapable of seeing a trailing space. It's completely invisible to us, and it looks exactly the same as any other data point without the trailing space. But to Power BI, it looks like a completely different and unique value. So in cases like that, trim or clean can be great tools just to standardize and help avoid issues like that, especially if you're working with really messy or unstructured text data. We also have some great extract tools. We can extract a certain subset of characters from a string based on a specific length. We can extract the first or last number of characters or a range. But where it gets really interesting is using delimiters, which we've already used as part of our first assignment. So what we can do here is we can actually tell Power BI that we want to return all of the characters before a specific delimiter or symbol or character, or after it or between two distinct delimiters. And there are also some advanced options as well that allow you to specify whether you search from the left side of the string or the right, and if you want to skip a certain number of instances of each delimiter before returning the text. So just some really great flexibility there with those extract tools. So you may have noticed that some of the tools here are grayed out or inactive, like the merge, columns, or parse. And that brings up a really important point, which is that this toolbar is completely dynamic based on what you've selected. So if you've only selected a single column, the merge column options are irrelevant, so you can't even click them. You'd have to select multiple columns in order to activate that option. And then taking that even further, if you've selected a column that's numerical instead of text, this entire group of tools might be replaced by numeric-based or number-specific tools instead. So just remember that the entire ribbon, the entire toolbar that you're seeing here, will dynamically change based on your selections. Now, one more very important point to highlight before we shift gears into Power BI. Anytime you see this yellow box that says, hey, this is important, I'm going to talk about something really important. So that means focus in and pay attention, because this is going to be something that'll come up time and time again throughout the course. And it's really, really important for you to fully grasp and understand. So what I want to talk about now is the difference between transform and add columns, because this is something that confused me for a while, and it's really important to understand the difference between the two. And what I was noticing was that the same tools, in fact, the same identical sets of tools, kept popping up in different places. And for the longest time, I just thought that this was really confusing and redundant, until I realized that the outcome is completely different depending on where you select the tool. So when you select a tool from within the Transform tab, you're essentially modifying or overriding the column that you've selected. But when you choose a tool from the Add Column tab, you're creating a brand new column within your table. So that may sound really obvious when I say it now, but I guarantee as you're learning this tool and as you're playing around with the query editor, you will at some point in time select the tool from the wrong tab. And you know what? That's okay, because obviously nothing is set in stone. It's as simple as just deleting the last applied step and you'll be back where you started. But it is something to keep in mind, and hopefully it will help you at least understand where you've gone wrong and why these tools appear in multiple places. So with that, let's head back to Power BI and we're going to get our hands dirty with some of these text tools. So continuing with the customer lookup table, one of the things that's been bothering me about this table is the prefix and the customer name and first name columns. So if I scroll back over here, right? Everything's capitalized, and it looks pretty jarring to me when I look at this. I would like to see this in a proper case. Let's first update our prefix column, right? So we'll come up here to add column, and we're going to come down to format. And within the format menu option, we have see our lowercase, uppercase, and then capitalize each word. This is the proper text option, right? So we can click here. And all right, so we've actually added a new column to the end of our data set here. And it's called capitalize each word, which is a pretty bad title there. But at any rate, what we've done here is instead of selecting this from the transform tab, we've actually selected the format option from the add column tab. So again, we're adding a brand new column to the end of the data set. And again, just to highlight, like this is what I'm talking about. It's really easy to just select the wrong menu item and create a brand new column instead of transforming a column, or vice versa. You could do it the other way around. Again, the great news here is that it's easily fixed, right? We can just come in here, click X to delete that apply to step. We'll come back over to our prefix column, and now we can head up to our transform menu, and then from here, head over to our text column tools, click format, capitalize each word, and now we're in the right spot. We've transformed the values in this column to a proper case, or actually only capitalizing each word. All right, so the next thing that I'd like to do is also apply that same transformation step to the first name and last name columns as well. And so what I could do is I could select each one of these one at a time, come up to format, or I can multi-select by holding shift and click, come up here to format, capitalize each word, and then the query editor creates those applied steps to change first name and last name both to proper. Awesome, so we're in good shape there. The other interesting piece here to call out is we didn't add a new applied step here for capitalize each word. If we actually look at the M code here, we can see that we're transforming the columns to proper text, right? Text.proper. And what Power Query has done is it added two more conditions here for first name and last name after prefix, right? So we're just kind of adding or mashing that code together into one applied step because the transformation is all the same there. All right, so now that all of these customer text attributes are updated to proper case, what I would love to do is create one brand new column for customer full name, right? And you can see here, again, we're in our transform tools. So we want to head over to add column. And what I want to do is I want to select prefix, first name and last name. So again, click on prefix, hold shift, and select last name to select all three. One thing to call out here is that selection order matters when you're kind of merging or combining things within Power Query, right? So if you had selected last name first and then prefix, Power Query interprets that as you want the last name column first and then first name in the middle and then prefix last. So just make sure you're selecting the columns in the order that you want them combined. So from here, then we're going to come up to merge columns. And again, here we're just setting our separator. We're going to add a space in between each one of these. We can create a new column name. This is an optional step, but again, merged here is a pretty bad name. So we'll call this full name, click OK. And awesome, you can see that we have our new insert merged column applied step here. Scroll to the end of the data set. We've got our full name column where we have our prefix, our first and last name. And then the last thing that I want to do here is just rename this applied step to something a little bit more readable so we can remember it. Again, we don't have a lot going on right now, but this may change over time. All right, so I'm going to update merged to full name, and we'll apply that change. All right, so with those updates, I think we're pretty good with our customer lookup table here. Last thing is let's head back to the Home tab, and I want to click Close and Apply to apply these changes and load them into our data model. All right, so now that that's finished loading, can scroll over and you can see that we have our new table here for customer lookup. The other thing that's interesting and to take note of is that the tables that we have marked as disable load or that we're not loading into Power BI's data model, like our SQL connections, they're not showing up here, and that's expected. So it's just great to confirm that and understand exactly what that functionality does. All right, so I'm going to save this and I will see you in the next lecture.